Juan Askinehe. I greet each of you in my Tuscarora language, and I'm also an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe. Here tonight, I have the opportunity to be a representative of the Baltimore American Indian Center in that area of this great state of Maryland. I have the opportunity here today, ladies and gentlemen, to give you words of thanks, and as in your program states, an invocation. So I greet and invite each and every one of you to pray in your own way as I give words here to our Creator. Yahweh, Garaki Wakwes. Thank you, good Spirit, for the opportunity to gather, to share, to rejoice, and to give. The opportunity here tonight to celebrate, to remark, and to show again who we are and what we're about. The opportunity to represent ourselves in our traditions, our teachings, our customs, our ways. I ask you, Great Spirit, not to allow our diversity to divide us, but to allow and to see each one of us as equals, to see and to learn from each other. And I ask you that you give thanks and that you give also mercy, that you show us a better way to be amongst each other, that through our culture and through our ways, that we can see a better path, a path that has been laid by our elders, by our ancestors, and so that we can make a better path for our future generations. 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, 4 generations back, 4 generations forward, so that we again can keep our culture alive, keep our traditions alive, and so that we may continue to share them with each other. And so I ask you, again here tonight, give us strength in our time of celebration. I say these things in my native tongue, Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I also have the opportunity here tonight to give also, in our way, honor to each of the individuals who will be coming up on the stage tonight. I give this in my native tongue, Skarure, once again, that this song, it says, I said it is a good day. So as you listen to this song, realize that this drum beat, this heartbeat, is what we all have inside of us. It is a beat that, again, represents us not to show our differences, but really to show the common characteristic that we all have. And so once again, our diversity, not to divide us, but again, to see the uniquenesses of each one here tonight. And so with that, this honor song is for all of you. Yahweh, thank you.
Good evening. Would you give him another hand, please? I'm Tom Moore. I'm Director of Arts and Culture here at UMBC, and we are delighted to welcome all of you and our colleagues at the Maryland State Arts Council to UMBC this evening and to the Proscenium Theater in the new Performing Arts and Humanities building. It's a very special thing for us to host this event, and I'd like to say a few words about the arts at UMBC. Throughout the year, this stage is home to dozens of theatrical and dance performances and lectures in the humanities. This building also hosts a black box theater, a dance performance venue that we call the Dance Cube, a music venue known as the Music Box, and the spectacular Earl and Darielle Linehan Concert Hall, home to more than 100 music concerts each year. The performances in these venues feature guest artists, our own faculty, and most importantly, our students, the next generation of leaders in the arts. We now have more than 600 students majoring in the arts. Give us a hand for that. UMBC is also home to two noted galleries of art, the Center for Art Design and Visual Culture and the Alban O'Kuhn Library Gallery. These galleries are so special that the New York Times, in its arts previews, has twice urged its readers in New York to travel to UMBC to see cutting-edge art. We at UMBC are also delighted to be home to the Maryland Folklife Archive, the archives of the Maryland Traditions program. And this archive is so significant because Maryland Traditions is the oldest folklife program of any state arts agency in the nation. Give them a hand for that. So we invite you to enjoy the evening. We congratulate tonight's award recipients, and we invite you to return to UMBC to enjoy even more in the arts and humanities. Thank you.
Hello, hello, Helenko. Jakoś ciszem pasze. Mnie się dobrze pasze, tobie nie wiem jako. Boż tam je daleko. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Good evening. My name is Ken Skshesh, the very proud and excited new executive director of the Maryland State Arts Council. Thank you. That was a folk song from the mountains of Poland, a song of greeting. You see, I don't know if you remember or not, but in the early 70s, a couple of crazy things were happening simultaneously. Number one is a whole bunch of us were running around trying to figure out where we came from, because Alex Haley was just about to publish Roots. And my very big Polish family decided that I should go to Polish language school on Saturday mornings in East Baltimore. So about 3 weeks into language class with Pani Janina Kozinska, I heard this music wafting down the hallway. And I started to investigate and discovered, I was 12 years old, that a children's Polish folk dance group was rehearsing. Now, because these events are a matter of public record, I won't tell you how many weeks my parents thought I was going to Polish language school when I was really going to Polish dancing lessons. Here's what I know for sure. My early exposure to the folk and traditional arts, a mainstay in my life for 20 years, allowed me to gain a deeper understanding about the origins of my family, while honing techniques of dancing and singing that would propel me into a life of a professional, contemporary performing artist. Acknowledging the traditions of the generations before me allows me to walk through the world with an ancestral confidence that informs every decision I make. So tonight, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the 2017 Maryland Traditions Heritage Awards, presented by the Maryland State Arts Council, the home, as you just heard, of the nation's longest-running state folklife program in continuous operation. This exceptional program, under the direction of the brilliant Chad Buterbaugh, offers support and encouragement to traditional artists and craftspeople across the state. Speaking of the generations that came before, the Maryland State Arts Council is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And I would like to thank and acknowledge 50 years of staff members, council members, artists, and supporters of the arts, all of whom paved the way for the success of the next 50 years. We have a great night ahead of us. Thank you for being here, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy the ceremony and concert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken, for that introduction, and Tom for convening us tonight at the 11th Annual Maryland Traditions Heritage Awards. My name is Chad Buterbaugh, and I am director, as Ken said, of the Maryland Traditions State Folklife Program, your State Folklife Program. And I say that it's yours because what we do, the study of living cultural traditions, is about you. It's not about playing zone defense against our desks in the office. It's about getting out into the field and meeting the people, going to the places and experiencing the traditions that make Maryland such a wonderful place to live. We're going to meet a few of those folks tonight, but first I'd like to tell you that now is a time of plenty for Maryland traditions. Not only are we putting on our regular events like the Heritage Awards, we are hosting in Salisbury, Maryland, or participating in the National Folk Festival, which you'll hear a little bit more about later in the show. We are undergoing a feasibility study to see whether or not a Maryland Folklife Center might come to the state. And as always, we are doing our regular grant-making and fieldwork activities to continue to increase the numbers of the Maryland Traditions family. This event feels like a family reunion in many ways. And even though I'm sort of staring into a dark void right now, I know that there are a few of you out there who are integral pieces and members of that family. I'd like to thank Jackson Medell. I'd like to thank Teresa Colvin, Cliff Murphy, Michelle Stefano, Rory Turner, Amy Skillman, and scads of other people that I simply don't have time to name individually, but rest assured, we're glad you're here. I won't take up too much more of your time, except to introduce our interviewer for the recipient of our Person Award. From the Maryland Institute College of Art, founder of the Center for Race and Culture, I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Leslie King Hammond.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am especially thrilled. This is the thing I love to do. Could I please have the esteemed Dr. John Gaither come forward?
Hello. Hi, my friend, my mentor. How are you?
We are going to conduct, in 25 words or less, a mini interview. I hope you understand that Joan Gaither and I have known each other for years, worked together, love each other madly, spend a lot of time talking about art, making art, sharing materials.
Yes.
But one of the things, as we witness here, these magnificent quilts, and I was just at the Reginald Lewis today Museum, and there is another body of work there that if you have not seen it, you should take the time and go see it. One of the things that I think is so important, Joan, that I want you to talk about is tell us why it was so important to begin to tell the story of the history of Baltimore, and most especially Anne Arundel County.
Well, I guess when I started, this issue of signifiers of identity, I think that we all look to be validated places. I'm still having a problem with bookstores and music places where there is African American history over here, a little bit of Native American over there, and then there's all of American history. And I want them to see this story, these stories, contributions and lives, experiences of folks of color as their story, but it's not a separate story. It's a shared story. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is to visualize those gaps that have just sort of stories that are there and important and need to be told. And I feel like we all have stories to tell, and it's all about the storyteller. I know how to do me. I don't know how to do all these other folk. So I want to help them to share that story, our shared American history, our shared human history, and just to let folks know we're here.
I told you this could go on for a very long time. I'm going to ask her one more question because you can tell from the answers she'll cut off the rest of the time that I have. I think it's important that people get an idea of what the process is like in the making of a quilt or a sculpture or a painting or printmaking. And Joan Gaither is particularly unique in the methodology that she has exacted in order to create these. So I want you to talk about how these quilts came about, because yes, while it is your concept and it is your hand, you were not alone.
Exactly. I say to folks, when you see me and you accept me into your world, I see lots of the posse already here. I come with a posse of folks. And, if the lights are out, but maybe when we stand up, we'll be able to do that.
Take care of that. You just talk about the process.
But it's something that's done for novice as well as seasoned quilters. And it's bringing and taking a tradition of hand-making quilt and bringing it into this modern technology. So I start with just basic squares, and this one is very traditional, but printing everything on my computer. So if you have printers at home, instead of printing your design or words on paper, print it on fabric. And you can buy the fabric sheets now, so it's easy to do. I initially got started ironing the fabric onto wax paper to give it its thickness and stability to go through the printer. And then you just sort of are constantly stalking the idea. And what I say to folks is, when I start these quilts and invite you to start, I always start with what I call existential questions. Who am I? From where did I come? Who are my people? Who are your people? What's your purpose? Ask yourself, what if my life had been different? What's missing? What is missing? So I'm always looking for what's missing in order to do it. And then you just embellish it till you can't do anymore. How's that?
This is her last question, and these are short answers.
Okay, short answer.
Okay?
Okay.
Short.
Short.
All right? We
Yes.
have 4 quilts on the stage.
Yes.
Please give them the title, the name. What are we looking at?
Henrietta, the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks, if you don't know her. She has contributed her blood cells, her cells have traveled throughout the world and in space. This one honors Larry Leon Hamlin, who was the founder of the National Black Theater Festival. They started in 1989 with Maya Angelou as the first chairperson, and Oprah Winfrey was their first celebrity. And it charted their growth through 2011. And all the beads on the bottom tell you all of the folks and theater companies that have participated. This was the first one I did, learning the traditional Baltimore album quilt that honors Ed and Sylvia Brown, who are philanthropists, and at the time had given $15 million to the cultural institutions in Baltimore. And I thought, wow, Black folks with that much money and can give it away.
Cash.
Cash, yeah. So this needs to be honored in some way. And then this one is my spiritual family quilt that honors the history and members of my church, St. Mark United Methodist Church in Hanover, Maryland. There are over 600 faces on this quilt, but it's my spiritual family. And then, of course, the ones in the lobby as well. So Leslie's on one of them, my mentor.
I'm so honored. I'm so honored. Come.
Okay.
And now we do the honors.
Oh.
One of the joys of doing this kind of work is that you get to bestow upon people who have been working so hard and so earnestly. I know I'm upsetting the program here, but can we have just a little bit of light? Because I want those individuals in the audience who were participants in helping to create this quilt to stand as I read this, because this is a salute, not just to Joan Gaither, but also to all the individuals.
Thank you.
Keep standing, stay standing. Is it still working? Great. The state of Maryland, the governor of state of Maryland, to John Gaither, be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of your, and I'll add my own point here, Herculean efforts to preserve and honor the history of Anne Arundel County, winning the 2017 Maryland Traditions Heritage Award in the person category. And truly, she is a person unlike anything you've ever met. In recognition of her intricate story quilts, which highlight the state's African-American history and heritage, in gratitude for her passing her gift of quilting to more than 1,000 Marylanders, and with our best wishes for continued success in the days and years to come. Thank you.
Can we go out?
You know, as we were rehearsing today, Dr. Joan described her work as the sort of thing that just invites touch. You want to get closer to these quilts. You want to learn more about them. And I absolutely agree with her. So the good news is this. Those of you who want to get closer to the quilts and closer to Joan herself, who, as you can tell, is a great storyteller, please join us at the reception after the show, where she will be on hand to tell you about 4 more of her quilts, which are on display in the lobby. You probably saw them walking in beforehand. At the lobby, at the reception as well, we're happy to be welcoming Andrea Hoig, who will be performing Swedish fiddle tunes for us. The Maryland Folklife Archives are here to tell you about their work with Maryland traditions and Maryland-employed folklorists over the past more than 40 years. And of course, there will be food and drink. So looking forward to seeing you there. Moving on to our next award. I am happy to introduce, to take us through our awardee in the category of place, someone who joined Maryland Traditions in January of this year, and who, although she was hired as a contract person, has become a fantastic, inspirational, collegial, wonderful friend, I think I can say. She is visiting lecturer in the Department of American Studies here at UMBC. She is a community-based visual artist, and she is my dear colleague at Maryland Traditions, Ashley Minner.
Good evening, everyone. It's my great honor to present to you this year's Maryland Heritage Award recipient in the category of place. It's a place where I did a lot of growing up, a place that has informed my identity as an artist, as a folklorist, and as a citizen of my community. And the place is the Baltimore American Indian Center. The Baltimore American Indian Center has stood the test of time in Upper Fells Point. Originally founded in 1968 as the American Indian Study Center, it once primarily served as a resettlement resource for Indians who had migrated to the city seeking employment. Today, members of Baltimore's American Indian community have, for the most part, relocated to areas outside of the neighborhood immediately surrounding the center, and that's a neighborhood that at one time was referred to affectionately as the reservation. The center now functions as a cultural magnet that draws the community back in. Offering weekly culture classes, an annual powwow, a full-fledged community museum, a multi-purpose meeting space, and more, the Baltimore American Indian Center continuously sustains the living cultural traditions of American Indians and Alaska Natives of the Baltimore region. And New Media Studios of UMBC is going to take you to the Baltimore American Indian Center right now.
I came to Baltimore in 1968, and that's the year that the center was founded. My mom was one of the founders, Elizabeth Locklear, along with Herbert Locklear and Rosie Hunt. My mom saw the need in talking to some people that we needed to keep our culture alive, and in order to do that, we needed to start our own center.
Our people came up from North Carolina and decided to make this a home where many numbers of us were gathering, and this is how the center was born. I mean, we needed a location that would service our specific needs and our concerns.
And for our people coming from Carolina, mostly in the 50s and the early 70s, it's really important to keep our heritage going. If we don't, everybody just slides one way.
Coming to Baltimore, everybody was pretty much on Baltimore Street or either on South Ann Street or on Broadway, and people lived together. My mom had a house here on Ann Street, and as family members and different friends came up, they would rent them rooms. So it's like one hand helping another hand, and then they would get on their feet and get their own place, and then some of their family would come and they would do the same thing.
When I walk out of here, I live kind of a distance from all the other natives around here, so the only time I really get to see them is every Tuesday when I show up here, or when we have a community meeting, or we have a mini powwow, our main powwow. It's the only time that we all come together and we have one place to be. So to me, this is not only a meeting place, it's the glue, in my opinion, of our community. This is where we all come and we stick together.
The strong sense of community that Native people have here in this urban environment, to be able to see other people that look like them and have similar cultures and traditions, and we can learn from each other. And I think that's really valuable.
We didn't really fit in when we first got here. They either thought you were white or they thought you were black. So we had to prove ourselves that, no, we're Native American, that's who we are, and this is who we're going to be. And the center helped establish that, having our own identity.
We think about the Baltimore American Indian Center only being just for Baltimore, but when you look back, how we've assisted, any and all Native people who have come through those doors and seeking some type of assistance.
If it hadn't been for the Indian Center, I wouldn't have had the funding or the grant to go through to finish my schooling. So they are actually the reason why I've been in the dental field for the past 20 years, because they are the ones who had the program here that actually paid for my schooling. So every time I sewed it, I pulled a little bit, cut a little bit more, and it made it more. Depending on what night you come to culture class, you'll see a multitude of different things. You will see children learning how to dance, boys learning how to drum and sing. Maybe you'll see some adults and parents learning different types of crafts, making dream catchers or making medicine wheels or anything like that.
The greatness of the class itself is just being enriched, becoming culturally aware of not only your specific tribe, but being aware of Native culture as a whole.
I would rather have a child to identify with who they are and being brought up in a healthy way and being a well-rounded person, to live in our world and the non-Native world. It's a hard thing to do.
My mother started by working here. I grew up here. My daughter started dancing, I'm going to say, when she was around 7. And I have 2 grandkids. So my grandson is 4, and he's starting to come, and he wants to drum and he wants to sing.
It's a good feeling for us to have our grandchildren there, to be able to pass this tradition down to them, and to have the center here for us to be able to share our culture with them and provide a safe and a good place for them to come.
But when you think about a powwow, it's where we can have not only Native people there, but we can have non-Natives, and they can sit and relax and enjoy, and they can feel that drum just like we do to a certain level.
You'll be seeing our people hugging and shaking each other's hands and telling each other how good it is to see each other, and that's definitely the case. And that goes along with the idea of what our gatherings are about, is really to see old friends, definitely make some new ones, and we're hoping that you won't remain just seated, but you'll get a chance during our breaks and other opportunities to get around our dancers, inquire, shake their hands, and and greet them as they will greet you. And it really is a time to bring people closer together.
When we think about the powwow, we have to always think about the Baltimore American Indian Center, as we should. We should think about the history and how many years that they've been doing this and doing it with the support of so many.
Dancing to me is the simplest way of giving thanks and to give an honor and praise for those who dance before you and those that can't dance anymore.
There's always an appreciation, there's always a respect, and that's, again, what you see at a powwow. You always hear that word respect, you hear that word courtesy and honor, and these are the things that hopefully people will continuously learn that's what makes us who we are. That's why we do what we do. That's why we dress the way we do, we speak the way that we speak, how we interact with each other from a traditional standpoint.
We are a group of people that is thinning out, and if we don't continue to teach our younger people and give them that sense of pride of who they are and what they are, we will eventually be gone.
A lot of times, when we think about Native Americans, my people, we tend to always want to look at the past of Indian people. But what we need to be doing equally is looking at what we're doing today and what we're planning for the future.
This is our identity. This is, when you come here, when you go outside and you see that mural on the wall, that came from a group of summer workers that painted that. And that identifies that this is a Native American building. When you look at the door, up above the door, there's feathers there. That represents Native people. So to have something that belongs to you, it's just like owning your own home. When you own your own home, it's your home. The Indian Center is our home. So for the Native people, that's the way we look at it.
Wasn't that a beautiful documentary? I'll tell you, we're so blessed to have our partnership with Bill Shoebridge and his students in New Media Studios here at UMBC. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage members of the Baltimore American Indian Center Board of Directors. These are the folks stewarding this incredible community resource currently and into the future. We have Linda Cox, Chair, Christine Duckworth, Miss Deli James, Jessica Dickerson, and Juan Boston. And absent tonight, but present in spirit, are Mr. Riedel Hunt and Mr. Dennis Seymour and Roz Johnson and Gary Hunt. So, Sister Linda, I'd like to ask you to step over. On behalf of the state of Maryland and our governor, Larry Hogan, be it known, in recognition of the Baltimore American Indian Center winning a 2017 Maryland Traditions Heritage Award in the place category in honor of BAIC sustaining the living cultural traditions of American Indians and Alaskan Natives of the Baltimore region, in gratitude for serving as a cultural magnet in the community with weekly classes, events, and a museum honoring the American Indian culture, and with our best wishes for continued success in the days and years to come, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Baltimore American Indian Center and the Board of Directors, I say thank you very much. I'm honored to be able to accept this tonight, and in recognition of my mom, who is getting ready to turn 90 years old, of having a dream. And today, as we stand here on this stage to be a part of that, we say thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you so much, board members, and Ashley, congratulations. You know, when these awards were devised back in 2007 by Maryland Traditions co-founders, Drs. Elaine F. and Rory Turner, they were called, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They were called the ALTA Awards. That stood for Achievement in Living Traditions and Arts. And it was also a clever allusion to Dr. Alta Schrock, the Garrett County folklorist who, although she passed away in 2001, still leaves a strong legacy of being an outstanding steward of folk life. And she founded more than 16 community organizations. 2 of them are still going strong and very familiar in Western Maryland, the Spruce Forest Artisan Village and Penn Alps Restaurant and Craft Shop. And from the get-go, Elaine and Rory realized that folk life, living cultural traditions, sometimes reside in place. It's not always about an individual or a certain practice, but when generations are involved, we can have folk life in place. So I would invite all of you to check msac.org next summer when the next cycle of Maryland Traditions Heritage Awards nominations will open. And if you know of a special place in the state of Maryland that is extremely important to its community, please let us know, and we would love to see it come through in nomination form. One more nod to Dr. Alta Schrock. As we do every year, these ceremonies are conducted in her honor and hopefully with a little bit of her spirit with us on the evening. Moving now from Baltimore City's Upper Fells Point neighborhood to the lower eastern shore, where city streets give way to sandy shorelines, we are going to take a few moments to talk about skipjacks, those special vessels which still go out crabbing and oystering on the Chesapeake Bay. And to tell us a little bit about our honoree in the category of tradition, I'd like to welcome curator and folklorist at the Ward Museum of Wildfowl Art, Jackson Medell.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here to celebrate the living heritage of Maryland. As a very recent come here, I'm very honored to be here to introduce this award for the Skipjack Race and Festival put on by the Deal Island Chance Lions Club. For the past 58 years, the Deal Island Chance Lions Club has organized and hosted its Skipjack Race and Festival at Deal Island. Each Labor Day, the sailing vessels race out of the harbor at Deal Island, run down Tangier Sound to Winona and back up. The race has grown from a small event amongst the captains to a cultural beacon for the Eastern Shore. The festival developed from the race and now includes many components, including swimming races, delicious local food, live music, and a truly exhilarating boat docking exhibition. The Skipjack is a Chesapeake original. It came about in the late 19th century and was based on the earlier bug-eye. But the skipjack is adapted specifically for the shallow bay and for the oyster fishery. It has a wide beam, a tall mast, triangular sails, and a keel that can be lowered or raised depending on the depth of the water being navigated. The skipjack was made for the Chesapeake Bay oystering industry, and the Maryland Skipjack fleet is one of the only operating commercial sailing vessels or sailing fleets in the country. In 1985, it was also designated as the Maryland State Boat. The skipjack is emblematic of Maryland, the Bay, and the occupational history of this unique region. But a ship isn't much without its crew. And here tonight we have Captain Stoney Whitelock, Mr. Jack Willing, and Professor Michael Paoliso to represent both the Lions and to have a conversation about the skipjack race and its importance in the cultural landscape of Maryland and the Eastern Shore. Please give them a hand.
Thank you very much. I'm Michael Paoliso, and it's my honor and privilege to be on the stage tonight with Mr. Jack Willing and Captain Stoney Whitelock. Jack and Stoney are born here on the Eastern Shore and Deal Island Chance area, lifelong members of the Deal Island Chance Lions Club, and have spent their entire lives in and around skipjacks, repairing them, building them, working on them, etc. So I have a couple questions for them to get them to share a little bit of their experience with skipjacks with us. And maybe the first one is, What was the reason for starting the skipjack races out on Deal Island?
Well, Ben Evans worked for the Baltimore Sun papers in Baltimore, and he was from Winona. And he talked with a few of the skipjack captains and asked them if they were interested in having a race. They hadn't decided on a date or anything, and they brought it up before the Lions Club meeting. I happened to be at that meeting. I wasn't a Lions member then, but I was helping serve the food. And we had about 100 members in the club at that time. Governor Tawes was a member, in fact, J. Miller Tawes. And they brought it up before the club, and they decided to go ahead and have the first race, and it turned out to be a great success, and that's how it all got started.
And were there earlier races before this?
Well, I think in 1928 and before that, they used to race all kinds of skipjacks and bug eyes and schooners, and it was a lot of different types of boats, sloops, and but it stopped in 28 for some reason, and it hadn't raced any for quite a while now. On weekends and stuff, the ones that had smaller sailboats, we would go out and race almost every Sunday after church, and I wasn't a very good racer myself, but I tried.
Great, great. So what makes the skipjack race special to Deal Island in the Eastern Shore?
Well, I guess our area where they built more skipjacks than anywhere else in the state, in Somerset County. And all of our people, as far back as I can go in my family, they were all skipjack people. And so most of the skipjacks were still around the island, Smith Island, Deal Island, Winona, Tillman Island, a few. And but when we decided to get the race going, it was a good treat for everybody, because all the old captains used to race to buy boats, and they would get the best money for their oysters. Yeah.
Right, right. Are any of these boats still working today in and around Deal Island?
We have 7 actually working out of Deal Island this year. Okay. 5 from Deal Island, and I think 2 from Tillman Island.
Uh-huh. And about how many skipjacks on the bay in general, you think?
There's 26 or 7 left, I believe, Mike.
Okay, great. So one final question. If you could tell our audience, if they wanted to come down to see some skipjacks, how could they do that? And maybe a little bit about the festival itself, the race.
Well, I own a marina, and we have 2 skipjacks on land now, and we have 1 at our museum that need rebuilding, and as soon as we can raise enough funds to rebuild them, one of them is the city of Crisfield, and Captain Art Daniels passed away this year, and he's not been able to sail or dredge for about 3 or 4 years, and they put her up on land for safekeeping, and she's got a good bottom, but the rest of her needs to completely rebuilt.
Our Labor Day Festival is at Deal Island on Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we'd love to have you all.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for speaking to us. That was great. So, I'd like to present this award to the Skipjack Racism Festival. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of the Skipjack Races and Festival in Somerset County winning a 2017 Maryland Traditions Heritage Award in the Tradition category, in honor of preserving Maryland's traditional lifeways associated with the crabbing and oyster trades, in gratitude for the contributions to the region's maritime heritage and cultural fabric, and with our best wishes for continued success in the days and years to come, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation.
Congratulations again to our friends from the Skipjack race, and may I also thank them deeply for making that commute today, for driving all the way up Route 50, taking a left at the Bay Bridge, trudging up 97 to be here with us tonight. We really appreciate that. We're going to depart from our regularly scheduled program at the moment because I wanted to tell you a little about some research I was doing. I was online the other day researching the country's most thankless jobs, and here are a few that came up. Garbage collector, taxman, dentist, dentist's assistant. But there's one that I might like to add to that list. Interim executive director. Because here's a position in which someone is expected to take a 3 or a 6 month stint to learn everything there is to know about the people, processes, and traditions, in a way, of a workplace. And just as she or he is getting the hang of it, the new guy comes in, and everyone's thrilled. Our interim executive director this year was our board member, Julie Madden. And we are going to take a moment tonight to thank her for her dedication and service. Unfortunately, Julie is not able to be with us as she is preparing for, I kid you not, she's preparing for a party next weekend that she says she expects 1,000 people to come to. So that's fine. She can prepare for that. But I would like to ask to the stage, please, Ashley Minner, Ken Skashesh, and our board chair, Shelley Morheim. So as we honor Julie right now, we send gratitude into the air in the hopes that she might receive it. Let's be thinking about the good work that she did for us this year and how thankful, very thankful, we are that she kept the ship sailing through a stormy season. So.
Well, yes, accepting on behalf of Julie Madden, I just want to say thank you. I know she really wanted to be here tonight, and I know she will really appreciate this. And as Chad has said, she just did an amazing job in a very difficult situation, and we are all just so grateful for her and glad that she continues as a council board member. So thanks.
I'm glad someone said photo op, because I thought of 2 more thankless jobs. There are a couple of people who are in the room tonight who make Maryland traditions look so good. 3 people, in fact. 2 of them are the principal members of Edwin Remsburg Photographs. Edwin Remsburg himself, who is right here. And his colleague, Lena McBean, who I know is also in the house with her family. And if our various graphics and programs and printed and digital materials have done anything to interest you in folk life, the credit is due to Julia Evans, who I believe is here tonight with her family as well. So thank you, Julia. I hope your hands aren't getting tired, because I'd like to ask all of you just to reach deep inside right now to think about our 3 honorees tonight, and as our ceremony portion of the evening is concluded, to give them all one more rousing, as loud as possible round of applause. More than 40 states of the United States of America employ folklorists. Many of them work at state arts agencies like we do here in Maryland. This work is possible in large part because of the National Endowment for the Arts. And we're very thankful to be working with Dr. Cliff Murphy at the NEA, who's going to come to stage now and tell you a little bit about a very special Marylander whom he has had a lot of contact with this year. So, Cliff?
Thanks, Chad. Thank you, Chad. Hello, everybody. Before we get to the fabulous Phil Wiggins, I just want to say happy 50th birthday, Maryland State Arts Council. Or birth year, I suppose it is. We need a louder applause than that. Thank you. All right, great. And it's really, truly an honor to be here. I sometimes when I see Chad, I feel like I'm the ghost of Christmas past as the past director of Maryland Traditions. And you know, I'm struck by the fact that as director of Folk and Traditional Arts at the National Endowment for the Arts, I travel throughout the country. I meet with other state folk life programs. I meet with different elected officials and different state officials. And everywhere that I go, the state of Maryland and its folk life program is a known quantity, and it is a respected program. It is considered a leader. And that's something that, that really we all should be proud of. Thank you for kind of allowing me to have that as part of my calling card as I visit with our colleagues across the country. And I also just want to say real quickly, thank you too to our recipients tonight who have schooled me as well as somebody who grew up in New Hampshire and moved here in 2008 to work with this program. I didn't know anything about anything. And it was you who taught me, and if there's anything that I've done well at the NEA, I have you to thank for it. And so that includes the Baltimore American Indian Center and John Gaither, and our watermen, and all of you in the room tonight, so thank you. I heard some hesitant clapping. You can always clap, people. So, one of my distinct pleasures and honors at the National Endowment for the Arts is to oversee the National Heritage Fellowships Program, which is the nation's highest honor in the folk and traditional arts. And this program was started in 1982. There have been 422 fellows recognized over that period of time. Some of them you may know. They're people like B.B. King or Bill Monroe, or Mavis Staples. And some of them may be sitting next to you in the audience tonight. I believe I saw Anthony Johnson of the Singing and Praying Bands of Maryland and Delaware. Welcome, Anthony. There are 9 recipients of the National Heritage Fellowship each year. And this year, Mr. Phil Wiggins received the National Heritage Fellowship. So come on out to the stage, Phil. How's it going?
Very well.
And so you also have Phil to thank for me being here tonight. We spoke on the phone earlier this week. Phil and I have had kind of these conversations on stage over the years, including at state government meetings, which is a great place to play the blues. And we were getting off the phone, and Phil said, well, I said to Phil, I'll see you Saturday. No, I'll see you Friday. And Phil said, what? It's Friday?
He gave me a heart attack.
Really. Yeah, so anyhow, thank you.
Well,
so Phil Wiggins, yes. You are really, you would never say this about yourself, but one of the great blues harmonica players that this country has known, and it is an honor to be in your presence. So tell us about what you do. Where did this come from? How did this instrument get in your hands?
Well, let's see. The harmonica, I guess, from the time I was a child, I had toy ones and all. I think really the harmonica and my expression of it was kind of my search to find something that reminded me of home or felt like home to me. And the sounds that I could make on the harmonica and the people that it led me to that I learned from were people, when I think of home, my concept of home comes from really my mother. And when she talked about home, she was talking about Titusville, Alabama. And so when I thought of home, that's what I always thought of was, and so being born and being my first generation Washingtonian of parents from the Deep South, I was drawn to things that took me to what my mother called home. And making the sounds that I make on the harmonica, that's what that's all about.
And not a lot of people know this, but Washington D.C. is one of the great blues and R&B cities in the country, and I don't know if that was a chuckle or a cough that I heard, but it really is true.
Yeah.
And so you were in a good place to be growing up with this music.
That is true. I was very fortunate to meet, people that from the Deep South that carried on this music, that made their home in DC, as well as people that came to DC for things like the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and the other festivals. And so there were people that I got to meet and spend time with, and that accepted me and were thrilled that a young person like me was interested in learning what they do and carrying it on.
Well, you have really graced a lot of stages around the world with your music, and your longtime partner and collaborator, John Cephas, received a National Heritage Fellowship. And I know as a result, many people thought for years that you had as well. And so I think it brought a lot of people who had been close to you a lot of gratitude to know that you received this award this year. So congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
And I know that folks didn't come here to see some guy from the government talk to a blues musician on stage. And so we have a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get to the house party.
Okay.
And I know that you're going to be bringing your music to the Eastern Shore in the near future. Can you tell us about that?
That's true. Well, as was mentioned, the National Folk Festival is going to take place in Salisbury. The dates are September 7th to the 9th, and I'm really looking forward to being there. It's a wonderful celebration of, it's called the National Folk Festival, but I always kind of feel like it's a pretty enlightened definition of the word folk, because it really stretches the boundaries. And to me, thinking about it, I feel like the best way to state it is that it covers all the music and art that sustains us, that nourishes us. Whether it's the pure funk, what was left of the George Clinton, or someone
Did you bring those guys with you tonight?
No. I did get to present them one time at the Richmond when the National was in Richmond. So, but I mean, just don't miss it. If you're anywhere near, come and join in the celebration. It's a wonderful celebration.
And that's produced by the National Council for Traditional Arts.
Exactly, yes.
Who are also producing tonight's event.
Yeah.
And on which Phil serves on their board of directors. So
true.
It's always good to see artists and traditional artists on board. So thank you for your service in that respect too. So should we wrap this up? All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, give one more round of applause to Mr. Phil Wiggins.
Thank you.
National Heritage Fellow, and he's going to be bringing some great music to you now. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, man.
Well, Jimmy Bell's in town and is walking round. He got enough greenback dollars, sweet baby, make a man a suit. Make a man a suit. Make a man a suit. He got enough Greenback dollar, sweet baby, make a man of Sue. Well, Jimmy Bell told his sister, on your knees, not to shout. He said, if you don't pay your money fee, I'm gonna turn you out. I'm gonna turn you out. He said, if you don't pay your money fee, I'm gonna turn you out. Well, Jimmy Bell in the pulpit, the Bible in his hand. Well, all the sisters sitting back in the corner, crying, Jimmy Bell's my man. Well, Jimmy Bell's my man. Well, Jimmy Bell, my man. Well, all the sisters sitting back in the corner, crying, Jimmy Bell's my man. Well, Jimmy Bell told the sexton, go and tone the bell. He said, 'cause some of these old members here will sure is going to hell. Will sure is going to hell. He said, 'cause some of these old members here will sure is going to hell. Jimmy Bell told his wife, he told her late at night, he said, if times don't get no better here, babe, up the road I'm going. Up the road I'm going. He said, if times don't get no better here, babe, up the road I'm going. 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 All right. All right. That's the wonderful Bakari Wilder. I guess I can say that thanks to Cliff Murphy, I've had two wonderful dancers come into my life in recent years, Bakari Wilder and Junius Brickhouse. And Junius couldn't be here, he's in Egypt. Also joining me, my great friend, we have Alabama in our history in common, Marcus Moore on violin. And my great longtime friend from Arlington, Virginia, Rick Franklin on the guitar. Everybody ready? you. Thank you so much. All right, and we're so glad to be a part of this celebration. We're going to do one right now that my former partner, John Cephas, I don't know if you remember him. Yeah. All right. He and I used to do this one together. Roberta. 1, 2, 3. Roberta, where are you? Can you hear me call? Well, I'm 1,000 miles away from home with my back against the wall. Well, I reached for you in the dark last night. My eyes were lonesome days. I guess I'll make it back home again. Meanwhile, each and every night I pray for an angel of mercy to save a sinking man. And I'm crying, Roberta, where are you? Can't you hear me call? Well, I'm 1,000 miles away from home with my back against the wall. Well, with my back against the wall. I'm crying with my back against the wall. Roberta, I know you're out there somewhere. Is there any water handy? There's a bottle of water. You just throw it from there. No. I'll catch it. All right. Thank you. So, we're going to do a song right now that I made up years ago. At the time, I was working with what they call Youth at Risk in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C. And the song at that time, well, I won't tell you what it was called because you might misunderstand, and I might get in trouble. But anyway, after so many years of singing the song, and the song, was written in the environment of back when Washington, D.C. was the homicide capital, and things got better, and I got tired of singing those negative lyrics, and so I decided to turn it into just like a dance song, like an instrumental dance song, and we renamed it Anacostia Two-Step. And then one day, some ethnomusicologist informed me, well, it's not really a two-step. To which I said, I don't care. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bakari Wilder. Yeah, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have him. All right, I'm gonna ask Rick Franklin to sing one for me. I mean, with me. For me is actually close to the truth. I really enjoy this one. Hey, you know, in the little, well, I've known Rick for a long time. We started having, like my daughters and his daughters were born about the same time. And so that's as far back as I've known him. My daughters now are, 34 and 37, something like that. So that lets you know how long we've been friends. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that. This is one of my favorite tunes that I learned from Rick.
Raiding Squad Blues.
Thank you so much. So I made a comment that some might consider to be disparaging, and I didn't really, well, I was going to say I didn't really intend it that way, but I don't know. That's not really true. Anyway, so I jokingly mentioned ethnomusicologist, and I've been helped quite a bit by. But anyway, here's a song written by a person that must drive them crazy because, you know, we have this category of blues that we call the Piedmont Blues, and one of the most popular, probably the best known practitioner of the Piedmont Blues is a person that from his name you might realize is not really from the Piedmont region, and that person is Mississippi John Hurt, which, you know, the clue's like right there in the name. So, but anyway, so this is one of my favorite tunes of that he wrote, and it's kind of my retirement plan. All right. We'll play a verse and then I can say two, one. Ocean, blues all in the air. I can't stay here no longer. I have no steamship fare. When my earthly trials are over, cast my body out in the sea. Save all the undertaker's bills and let the mermaids flirt with me. I do not work for pleasure, peace I'll see no more. Only reason I work at all, drive the wolf from my door. When my earthly trials are over, cast my body out in the sea. Save all the undertaker's bills and let the mermaids flirt with me. Well, my wife controls our happy home, a sweetheart I cannot find. The only thing that I can call my own is a worried and a weary mind. When my earthly trials are over, cast my body out in the sea. Save all the undertaker's bills and let the mermaids flirt with me. Forsaken me. If I ever see her face again, I'll have to swim across the sea. Oh, when my earthly trials are over, but cast my body out in the sea. Save all the undertaker's bills and let the mermaids flirt with me. Blues all on the ocean, blues all in the air. Can't stay here no longer, I have no steamship fare. When my earthly trials are over, I'll cast my body out in the sea. Save all the undertaker's bills and let the mermaids flirt with me. All right. Thank you so much. So we got time for one more, I think. So we have time for one more. Thank you so much for having us. And congratulations to these wonderful Heritage Award recipients, celebrating what truly makes this a wonderful place to call home, and that is the wonderful, diverse cultures that people have brought from all over the world to right here to North America and contributed to this place that we call home. So I'm so happy to be part of it and thank them. It's kind of quiet in here. We're going to change that. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. It's such a pleasure. Marcus Moore, Rick Franklin, and Bakari Wilder. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Keep it going, the Phil Wiggins Blues House Party. For Dr. John Gaither, documentary story quilter. For the Baltimore American Indian Center. For the Skipjack Races and Festival of Deal Island, Somerset County. One more time, please. Our hosts at UMBC, our wonderful producers at the National Council for the Traditional Arts under the spectacular coordination of Mr. Ben Tungland. We will see you all at the National Folk Festival next September in Salisbury. Before then, we'll see you in the lobby. Thank you.